So, reviewing the trades that happened in the last few hours. So my model is based on the ICT concept as taught by Justin Werlein. I made my own version of it, and I try to make it as simple as possible in half a sheet of paper, so I can actually physically tag all the setups, whether or not it is active. And I'm going to run down a trade that happened this morning. I was unfortunately not behind the desk. What happened? ES broke all-time high, did it again, swept those highs, created an SMT, and dropped off. And I think this has a trade in itself. This was 4:10 p.m. US time, so I was fast asleep, luckily. Price corrected, first to the H4 fair value that was created. ES created through this enormous candle a bigger fair value gap, which held, actually got filled to the tick. And on MNQ, there was a remainder of a 1 hour fair value gap that got tagged in the end. So what am I looking here? I'm gonna go to the 5 minutes first. When UK opened, London opened, there was a move to the downside, and I'll immediately go to the 1 minute. Price created a 1 minute inverse fair value gap, broke through, held as support, and ran through the next to the next, in this example, a 5 minute fair value gap, broke through it again, found support, and reached the next level. Then there was some chop, a correction down, and it ran all the way to buy side liquidity. First these relative equal lows, and then this higher level up into a obvious 15 minute fair value gap, which you can see here. I combine these two into one. There's also a very small volume imbalance, so I treat that as one big fair value gap. What happened next was the following. Price swept this buy side level, did barely not reach it, corrected into this M5 fair value gap, and then swept it. And while sweeping it, it created a higher high, while on ES there were equal lows. So for me, then this is an interesting setup. What I noticed that there is a small volume imbalance, and this could be an interesting IFVG setup. However, with the change in the state so close by, let me look it up. Change in the state so close by, I wanted to wait. So there was this looks a bit messy. So I drew a level here to make sure that this was the key level to be broken. I also noticed that this fair value gap, it's actually an M1 fair value gap, provided support, also alignment with the change in the state. There is a volume imbalance, and there is another M1 fair value gap. So for me, this would mean it's clear sign of that it's a strong level. So I want to see price go below this to either step in fully or to wait for a retrace, because generally the strategy is I wait for a break of a fair value gap or an inverse fair value gap in combination with a retest of the change in the state. So the setup here, short of course, would be to either go short on the change in the state with a stop below the candle that broke. This was of course too tight, and I would be able, or at least I would take my loss, stop loss over here, and then target at least these lows for an R2, 2R. But seeing that this gap was almost broken as well, I would target these as well for a proper 3R trade. So this would have been a wonderful trade. It chops a bit in the beginning, but once it gets going, then it goes quickly. That's the first setup.